What is up, world? It's your boy Ton, and you are listening to the Wonton Wealth Podcast. Here, I'm going to unravel anything and everything commercial real estate related. And more importantly, we're going to add abundant value. So if you're ready, buckle up your eardrums. Yo! Today we are going to talk about the not-so-rosy side of commercial real estate. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have ran into people who's always like, yeah, commercial real estate is awesome. You should be in it. You should invest in it. There's nothing bad about it, right? When in reality, that's false. There's always cons to everything. So today we're going to look at some of the most common cons of investing in commercial real estate. And the first thing that I can think of is that it's going to be a larger financial commitment when you're looking at commercial real estate. Typically, these types of properties are going to be larger. Now, I'm not going to say that all commercial property are larger. You can most certainly find mixed-use buildings or smaller retail, office, and or industrial properties at a respectable size. And with that being said, they're probably going to be less than $1 million. But if you're looking at the overview of commercial real estate, they tend to be bigger, more square footage. And because they're larger, now that correlates with a higher ticket price. So that means you got a higher price tag. That means you got to cut bigger checks. So to elaborate off of that, you also are going to have higher fees when it comes to purchasing the property, higher closing costs and more expenses when it comes to buying third-party documents. More on that in a little bit later. Now, as you can imagine, if you're buying a larger property, you're going to have larger expenses with it, right? So you got, aside from more square footage, you're going to have more windows, you're going to have more doors, you're going to have more mechanicals in general. It sounds good about having more and more and more until you hear that there's actually more expenses. And this is where bigger is not always better. So when you're doing all these repairs to the building or replacements, those extra zeros add up pretty damn fast. So before you actually jump into investing in commercial real estate, think twice about whether or not more is really what you're after. You want to double check those expenses and underwrite your project appropriately so that you are attacking it from a manageable level, or you're going to be shit out of luck, right? So aside from having more of everything, you're going to have more due diligence. So when you're purchasing the property, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to have to tackle before taking it to the closing table. You're going to have a lot of third-party reports. Some of them you're going to need, some of them the bank's going to require, and this is going to make sure that you're actually buying a solid investment. Now, aside from those, you're going to have a ton of paperwork. You got your purchase agreement that attorneys are going to have to draft up. You got to read and review all those third-party documents like we mentioned. Now, with all this, I don't know if reading legalese is your forte, but for me, it's probably the best drug for, right? It's the documents are just as large as a Charles Dickens novel. My recommendation is to always have an attorney review your documents before, and not just relying on yourself in order to do that. Now, aside from all these, you also have to communicate with the city, the municipality. You have to communicate with the fire department in order to make sure that your building is not in violations of whatever, right? You don't want to buy a building and then come to find out it has all this shit that's wrong with it that you have to take care of immediately. Next up, the next issue is that everything's going to be time intensive. Like I mentioned, you got more of a lot of things here, right? A lot of due diligence, a lot of paperwork, a lot of reviewing. So everything is going to take longer from a time frame perspective. you're no longer looking at 30 days of due diligence and a few more days to close. When you're dealing with commercial property, you can expect that it's going to take probably 60 days for your due diligence period, if not 90, and then tack on a little bit of extra time to make sure that your third party reports and or all your financing obligations are taken care of. And you always want to be a little bit conservative. Now, if you're dealing with land, now that's going to be even 3 to 4 times longer than what you're anticipating for commercial real estate. Typically, I shoot for 60 days in a due diligence period to cover all of those third-party reports and for myself to visit the property, do my own due diligence, and then I do, anywhere from a 14-day to a 30-day closing after that. And I'll bake in some extensions for additional cushions there. With commercial properties, you're also one of the biggest factors you're going to face is longer vacancies. So these units, depending on how you underwrite it, depending on where it's located, depending on the configuration and the size of the units, you're gonna face some type of vacancy. And the time frame depends on all those factors that I kind of just mentioned. In general, they're going to be longer. In residential or multifamily, I'm sure the demand is there to where your vacancies don't really sit that long and your turnovers are pretty quick as well. People are constantly wanting to rent space versus owning a home. Whereas in the commercial realm, once you have a vacancy, you're going to have to put in a lot of effort in order to get these places leased out, whether it be through your own methods of marketing or enlisting the help of a broker to list a space for you. Now, if you do enlist the help of a broker, you're going to be paying for those fees. Typically, they charge, there's a wide variety of what they charge, but in general, you can expect to pay roughly 6% of the gross base rent. So, for example, if it's a 2-year term and they're paying $10,000 every month, which is $120,000 a year, $240,000 for 2 years, the broker will be making 6% of that $240,000. Pretty hefty fee, keep in mind. Now, when you're buying a commercial property, it's getting the financing is not fantastic when you compare it to other types of real estate like multifamily or residential. It's usually you're going to be faced with variable rates to balloon payments. So typically you're going to see a fixed rate for a certain amount of time, whether it be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Those are the 3 common time frames that I usually see. And now after that time frame, it could either be a variable rate or a balloon payment. So make sure you double check that with the bank. Sometimes they give you an interest only period. Sometimes they don't, right? They'll give you some prepayment penalties as well. So double check those. And I think the biggest issue that we see here with commercial real estate loans is that they're typically recourse loans as compared to non-recourse when you're in the multifamily space. So that turns off a lot of people. Once again, read your documents, read your terms, understand them before you take the plunge. One of the other main issues that we have seen historically is with recessions, right, or economic downturns. Just in the COVID holidays that we saw, commercial real estate took a beating, mainly office. Office got shit on pretty bad. Vacancies skyrocketed, the property values just dropped significantly. So in any economic environment, commercial real estate is not bulletproof. So keep that in mind. And there you have it. I think you have roughly 6 or 7 or so issues or cons with investing in commercial real estate. So remember that when you do invest in commercial real estate, you take into account all of these factors in order to try to mitigate some of these risks, in order so that you have a badass opportunity and generate significant returns. And that's a wrap. If you've made it this far, that means you've listened to the entire episode, so thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And if you've learned something or found it useful, share it with one of your homies. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm pretty active on IG. My handle is pro_TANH. Reach out, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you want to hear about in the future. I'm here to tailor this to you. Until next time.